Hello again. Are you ready to have your mind blown? But first, I'm going to give a little speech here. When I was younger, I had these ideas, and when you're 8 years old, 10 years old, nobody really listens to you. I was part of a group of kids that were considered to be gifted in Oakland. Doesn't mean I say gifted, I don't mean like geniuses or anything like that. I mean, we weren't members of the Scorpion Club or anything like that because back then we didn't have this stuff. But one of the things that I found out as I went on through life, as I got older, is that in order to get people to listen to you, you had to go to a university. You had to get a doctorate. You had to basically adhere to all the policies and politics of the world of science, which means that you had to not only get this education that everyone else had, so they would listen to you, but you had to adhere to their way of thinking. Now, my way of thinking is a lot different from everyone else's. Now, in a previous video, I talked about faster than light objects and gravity. And I talked about the fallacy of Newton. Why did Newton think the way he did? And I mentioned that reason is that he didn't have rockets. He didn't have outer space travel. In a moment, with this piece of paper behind me, I'm going to show you why you think that the earth attracts you, why the earth pulls you down. And this is the second part of this. So if you want to know what gravity actually is, go back to one of my other videos. Now the thing is, I talked about this thing with education and writing books and doing white papers and adhering to the world of science so people will listen to you. Well, nowadays you don't have to do that. I have YouTube right here in front of me, and so I can tell you, and you can know how gravity really works. And I can explain that to you without going to MIT or Brown University or something like that. I can just show you right here on a piece of paper. Now, gravity, as I said before, gravity is not a force of attraction. But a lot of they think that a round object, a large round object, the larger the round object, then the larger the gravitational force. In the previous video, I also explained that an object floating in space is kind of adheres to the same rules as a boat on water. The larger the displacement of water, the more buoyancy that is acquired from that object floating on the water. And it's kind of hard to get people to understand that this feeling of attraction, this fallacy that we live with today, is actually a fallacy. But I'm going to show you here in a moment. And hopefully you can hear me because this microphone is sensitive enough and everything else. And this will hopefully only take a couple minutes of your time. And if you want to know more about this stuff and the way I think and the science that I think about, then yeah, subscribe and follow me. And I will show you more because now I don't have to write a book. I don't have to write a white paper. I don't have to go to university. So first, let's take I have my trusty red and black pens here. So first we're going to use the earth because everybody's familiar with earth because we live here. I'm going to take the earth and I'm going to explain to you why you think that things fall down and are attracted to the earth. Let me get this chair here out of the way. Hopefully nothing falls over or gets knocked over while I'm doing this. Now, we live on the earth, a round object. And this round object is surrounded, it's in a but let's say it's in a giant glass of water called the universe. And all around us are faster than light objects that push against the Earth, which is why the Earth is constantly trying to form itself into a smaller and smaller ball, and why it's shifting. Why once the Earth was pear-shaped, and now it's always, when it was molten, it was becoming more and more round until the crust causes it, the cooling of the crust causes it to be more of a round object. And so the result of that is, of course, we get tectonic plates moving. As this crust starts moving, the plates move and cause earthquakes and other things, volcanoes, other things like that. Because the Earth is being pressed like a balloon, you get things like volcanoes and other things like that. Now, since all these faster than light objects are pushing on the Earth and making, I'll draw the United States in here just to make people happy. North America, Europe, South America, Hawaii, and Japan. Okay. Now this is a part that I had to be really careful of when I was a child, because my family was religious, and I read about something called a existential crisis when I was younger. And I did not want to explain to my father or my mother or any of my family these things that I thought about, because I always felt like I would cause an existential crisis in their life. And I don't like hurting people. An existential crisis can be good or it can be bad, but most of the time it's bad. This is why religion keeps people from having these crises. Now, when you think about an apple falling from a tree, you think that this apple is falling towards the earth, and the earth is attracting it. But it is not. Because of the buoyancy and displacement factor, all of these waves and things like this around the earth create a buoyancy factor. When you're here, where the apple is, let me see if I can get that a little bit darker. When you're here where the apple is, on this side of the earth, then everything that is on the other side, the opposing side, has to go through this object in order for this object to be balanced inside of this ocean, this sea of faster than light objects. And for the sake of simplicity, instead of I keep saying faster than light objects, I'm going to say gravity. Because, now on this side of the earth, this apple is here, but on the other side of the earth, there are still waves of energy that are being blocked by the earth itself. Then the larger the object, the larger the displacement, which means that the greater potential of displacement is going to be. On this side, on this bottom half here, you will find that, the earth is in the way, so all of these faster than light objects cannot reach this apple because the earth is blocking it. Which means that the waves that are not being blocked by the earth will push the apple down towards the center of the earth in an effort to make it into a ball. So what you think is a falling object is actually this displacement of gravity from the opposite side of the earth. So you think that, that the apple is coming down, when in actuality it's just trying It's just trying to get to the center of the Earth. It's not falling. It's just trying to make its way to the place of a place of equilibrium in the middle of the large object that is blocking gravity. Yeah, this is the part where you just like you start thinking, wait a minute, that's kind of true. Yeah, because if this were Jupiter, then the displacement would be larger, and so the amount of buoyancy on the opposing side would be greater, and that would cause the object, the apple, to be heavier because there's a greater amount of energy being pushed about because of the size of the object itself. Every object that is in space gets pushed equally by gravity. Does that explain anything to you? Are you starting to see how our science is wrong? Because if we are not, we think that things are being attracted to the center when in actuality they are being pushed to the center. And the reason that we think that is because on this side of the Earth, in Australia somewhere, the Earth is in the way, and on this side, at the North Pole, that apple, apples in the North Pole, that doesn't quite work out. But in any case, you believe that, yeah, things fall, but they are actually being pushed down to the center of the Earth. Does that? I hope that's clear. Yes. Is there anything else I need to say about this? Because if you think of a boat on the water, you know what buoyancy and displacement mean, and that any object. Now, escape velocity. Let's talk about rocketry and escape velocity and things of this sort. But I'll do that in another video. But this video right here is just to show you the fallacy of Newton. Now, the fallacy of Newton is thinking that things are being attracted to the center when they are actually being pushed to the center. There are movies about this, about what would happen if you drilled a hole between the Earth and you went from England to Australia. What would happen if you had a giant hole? Would that object fall or be pushed down this hole and then come out the other side? No, it would not. Because once this object gets through this corridor that you dug here, and it gets to the center of the Earth, then it would meet a point of equilibrium. And so it would fall, it would travel to the center of the Earth, and it would stop moving. It would reach that point of equilibrium, so it would be, there would not be enough energy. It would travel down, reach a point of equilibrium, and the tunnel continues down to the other side of the Earth. And so the equilibrium from the other side would cause this object to just sit there in the middle. And that's it. That's all there is. Simple. Now, we always think about, is there such thing as anti-gravity? Can we create anti-gravity? No, we cannot. Anti-gravity is an illusion of the fallacy of Newton. And I hope you can see this right now, and I'm going to kind of stand here over to this side here, so maybe if you can see everything else here, but yes. So you have your tunnel here going down, and this apple is being pushed down to the center, meets the equilibrium, and then you have the other side. So nope, there wouldn't be any elevator from London to I forgot the name of this movie. There would not be any elevator from London to Sydney. because everything would collide to the center of the object that you drilled the hole into. And that's it for today's lesson in gravitational science. Now, this probably won't win me a a Nobel Prize because, yeah, as I said before, in order to get a Nobel Prize, you have to go through the trials and tribulations of the world of science. This is the same reason why people just did not believe Copernicus. So you probably won't believe me because, yeah, this guy is not a scientist. He's not Neil deGrasse Tyson. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And my IQ is, I don't know, average. When I was first tested when I was a kid, I was tested at 147, and then again, and just before I was going to go try and get into university, it was tested at 161, and then later on, I believe somewhere around my late 20s or so, I I hate IQ tests. I hate taking tests, period. But somewhere around when I was 26 or 27, I was tested at my tested IQ was 187. So yeah, I'm not one of these super geniuses where I have the IQ of 200. But I don't think that's necessary because Einstein's IQ was only 160. So yeah, I might be a touch higher than Einstein, but this is only by testing, by being tested. And I don't, since I don't like tests, then yeah, I'm not, I'm not good. I'm willing to accept the fact, yeah, okay, we give you this number, and this number, yeah, and yeah, you go from 147 to 187 over my adult life, then I'm satisfied with that. But what I want people to remember is that anti-gravity does not exist. What what deGrasse Tyson and a lot of other scientists, these cosmologists, physicists, and whatever else you want to call them, they are absolutely wrong. Their math is wrong because it's based on a fallacy that this object pulls things in, that Jupiter pulls things in, that the sun pulls things in. This corkscrew of movement that we live in as things get pushed around and around the sun in a funnel going up and down because we're traveling through outer space is because galaxies are being pushed around in a circle because planets are being pushed around, all these celestial objects are being pushed into a circular movement. And that also brings in the Coriolis effect, but we'll talk about the Coriolis effect and rocketry in another video. But remember, and this is going to be the end of this video because I'm going to limit the time that I spend talking with you. Remember that, and this is mostly for the kids because I don't want my children to grow up in a world where the science that they are being taught is the illusion of the science that they are being taught is just that, an illusion. The same as the illusion of the world being flat. It's just an illusion of the horizon. The earth is so big, and so you have an illusion of thinking that the earth is flat. And you see nowadays that people, these flat earthers, believe that the earth is flat because of this mental illusion that is created and propounded by not only the 1800s, the 1500s, and everything else. But no, gravity is all around us. It is not part of this object. The earth contains no gravity. All the gravity that we have, everything that we do, all these are parts of waves of light and particles that are constantly bombarding any celestial object. And you can also say, well, you don't have the math to prove this, but I don't have to prove it with math. This is a self-evident thing. I don't have to drill a hole through the earth in order to prove prove myself, because it's a self-evident thing. And we have a tendency to believe this is what science has taught us. Science has taught us that things have to be complicated and serious and mathematically proportional to whatever we do and think about. No, the universe is a simple thing. Space, outer space, celestial objects, they are simplicity itself. If you're religious, think of it like this way. If you believe in God, think God doesn't have complicated plans. He has simplicity in mind. If you're God, if you believe in God, think about how simple this is. That yes, it's easy to think of. And yeah, I'm going to get into a point where I'm starting to talk too much here. But look out for the next video and subscribe to me if you want to see more and make a comment. Tell me what you think. And that's all for today, folks. Carl out. Let's see. Okay, the microphone's on this time. I made a video of this, but I forgot to turn the microphone on. And so I'm going to do it again. It's good practice. What we're going to talk about here today is I spoke before about faster than light objects and what we consider to that things cannot travel faster than light. When we know for sure that there is one thing that travels faster than light, and that's gravity. So faster than light objects, for the sake of simplicity here, rather than saying faster than light objects and things of that sort, I'm just going to use that one word, gravity. And we're going to talk about the fallacy of Newton. Why Newton thought that why his science and his physics are based on things being attracted to a large object in space being the attraction force, when in actuality there is no attraction force from a large object. I also talked about the buoyancy factor, whereas yes, if you put a boat on water, I'm explaining this to you this way so that you can easily understand what I'm talking about. If you have a small boat that has less of a buoyancy factor than, say, aircraft carrier. Aircraft carriers are large objects that are dense, made of metal, concrete, and asphalt. There's a lot of asphalt on an aircraft carrier. But these fallacies are tricks of the mind, the same trick of the mind that came about when men first decided that they were going to draw maps of the world and travel long distances. For some reason or other, they believed that the world was flat. This was a trick of the mind, an illusion of not being able to detect or to find methods of showing whether or not the earth is completely flat or not. So this was just bad science that was created by people that believed in God and other things, people that wanted power. So they created science that was wrong. Copernicus came around and said that the world is round and the sun does not travel around the earth, but the earth actually travels around the sun. But before that, everyone believed that yes, we are the center of the universe, and the entire universe comes around us. Well, we're going to take this piece of paper behind me, and I'm going to show you why you think and why Newton thought that things are attracted by large objects, and why we have this illusion that things fall to the center of the earth because of the gravitational pull of the earth, when in actuality the earth has no gravitational pull whatsoever. Everything is being pushed towards the earth. Now if you take an object here, let me get this chair out of the way here. I don't need to sit down anymore. We're going to take the earth and maybe another object. Let's see, let's take the earth. This is the earth. And let's put in another larger object, just for the sake of argument, so you have something to see here. We'll put in Jupiter. I like Jupiter for some reason or another. Now, the fallacy of Newton is that if you have an object here, like an apple, the little red apple here, that apple will fall to the center of the earth. When in actuality, and we draw a little target here, a little center. This is center of the earth. But the truth of the matter is that because you have gravitational forces all throughout all of our universe, these gravitational forces are caused by light, particles of light and waves of light. So you have two objects here, that Jupiter and the Earth. Now, the reason I'm doing this here is because people say, well, why is this apple heavier on Jupiter than it is on the Earth? Well, it's because Jupiter is a larger object, and so it has more buoyancy and more displacement of gravity. Now, when the apple is tossed into the air, it will come back to the Earth. But it will come back to the Earth because it is being pushed back to the Earth. Everything, our atmosphere, everything around us is being pushed towards the center of the Earth. And when the Earth was just a molten blob inside, of course, you see like water droplets in space exploration. You see that fluid objects get pushed into a round object because of the equilibrium of gravity pushing on that. A water droplet does not have gravity, yet it flows into a round object. On our Earth, the Earth was kind of pear-shaped before, and now it's losing more and more of its pear-shapedness, and the outer crust of the Earth is the cooling of the Earth causes this outer crust to push onto the molten center of the Earth, because gravity is always pushing on it. This causes tectonic plates to move. It causes the pressure from the center of the Earth to create a volcano because of the molten center. So your apple gets pushed towards the center of Earth. Now let's talk about something that you're probably familiar with. There's a movie where there's an elevator through the Earth. Now, why do we think that this apple is falling and not just being pushed towards the Earth? It's because of the displacement. I'll draw a line here. The apple is here. We just draw a line through the Earth. There. The displacement buoyancy of the Earth comes from not just this side here, but it also comes from this other side. But the Earth, the other side of the Earth, the bottom half of the Earth, is blocking the gravity from being. Gravity is pushing, but the Earth is blocking that, causing a certain amount of buoyancy. This is why you can take an apple and or this pen and throw it in the air because of the buoyancy of gravity. Gravity, this allows us to do things in everyday life like stand up and sit down because we have a certain amount of buoyancy. We can jump because gravity allows for the buoyancy. The larger the object, the less buoyancy that you have. Buoyancy on Jupiter is going to be different from the buoyancy on the Earth because it's a larger object and it has more displacement. So if you have an apple here and it's being blocked by here, then on the other side here, the Earth is not blocking the apple. So the apple is constantly being pushed towards the Earth. And it will constantly be pushed towards the Earth until it reaches the center. Now, in this movie, they talk about creating an elevator from London to Sydney. That if you had a tunnel here in the middle, if you cut a hole through the Earth, that somehow or another you could go through the Earth and then wind up on the other side of the Earth. Well, this can't happen. Because as soon as you make an opening here, on the opposite side from Australia, towards the center and then going from the center, then you would reach a point of equilibrium. And the equilibrium would push the apple down to the center of the Earth. And then the gravitational forces from the other side that are no longer being blocked by the Earth itself, they're being open to this opening here, then that object would be pushed to the center of the Earth, meet equilibrium in the center, and it would not move. It would stop right there. So elevators from one side of the Earth to the other side of the Earth, these are not, this is science fiction. This is not going to happen. And we know what equilibrium does. Once something reaches equilibrium, it typically stops moving. So if I dug a hole and I was eating my apple here and I dug a hole, jumped into that hole, I fell miles and miles and miles into the center of the Earth, I'd probably be burnt by the heat and everything else, but I would not wind up in Japan like in a Bugs Bunny cartoon, or Australia like in a cartoon. I would fall to the center and I would stop right there. That would be the point of equilibrium. And that is the same thing as true for any planet. If I were to have that same apple here on Jupiter, not only would the apple be pushed towards the center of Jupiter and reach equilibrium, it would be heavier because of the displacement of this displacement size of Jupiter. It would be heavier because there's a lot more displacement and a lot less buoyancy. It would just be pushed down to the core of Jupiter. This is true for any celestial object, even our sun. This is why when you see a solar flare or you see anything that we typically associate with gravity as, a solar flare comes and then the gravity of the sun pulls a flare back in. Well, this is not true either. Solar flares, if they are strong enough, they will travel out into the soup that we call gravity. And this fallacy is responsible for so much bad science. Thinking that gravity is a force of attraction rather than a force of compression is responsible for every bad theory, every bad science article, every bad white paper. But we still tend to believe in it the same way that people believe that the Earth was flat. And I'm here to tell you that stop believing in this. This is no longer true because I'm telling you the truth. And you probably don't believe me because, yeah, well, who are you, Carl? You don't have a science degree or you don't have white papers. You haven't written thousands of books, and you don't have a Nobel Prize or anything like that. But a lot of these things right here, like the fallacy of Newton, is self-evident. You don't have to. I don't have to go to MIT. I don't have to go to Brown University. I don't have to write 100 books or prove to myself to 1,500 other scientists. I just have to have a YouTube video showing you how this works. Now, one of the things about these guys that are always talking about free energy is that they cannot do what I have done here, which is explain to you in simple piece of paper the actual truth of gravity. They can't do that. They can't do that with free energy. They can't say you can, because there are laws of physics, and these laws that I'm not saying that these laws of thermodynamics and other things that Newton and Einstein talked about are not true. What I'm saying is that a lot of the things that we think of are based on wrong information, or information that is from that is gotten from a point of just not knowing, not thinking in a proper manner, of thinking that mankind is the center of the universe when we are not. Gravity is everywhere. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as anti-gravity. Anti-gravity is actually rocketry, rocket science. We send a rocket up to the moon or up to the troposphere, or a jet plane flies or something like this. This is anti-gravity. We call it something else, but we've already invented, we've already produced, we've already made anti-gravity. We just don't call it anti-gravity. We call it rocketry. We call it aeronautics. We call it something else. And that's because of this fallacy. The reason people think that there might be a such thing as anti-gravity is because of this fallacy of thinking that things are being pulled in by the celestial object itself, when in actuality they are being pushed to those celestial objects. Why larger celestial objects, or in gaseous clouds in the galaxy, things that are in our galaxy that are being pushed around, pushing things around in a circle, are actually being pushed by gravity. Gravity is everywhere. It's all the time, on all the time. We cannot exist as a species, maybe in certain parts of the galaxy, because gravity, just in general, and all this spatial area might be of the wrong type. There are places where gravity is so strong, or maybe so light, that we can't even do things like use electricity. Particles and things travel through this soup, this thermodynamic soup that we live in. And if that soup changes flavor, or if that soup has the wrong vegetables or something like that, then things stop working. So there are places in this universe where things that we consider to be normal just don't work. And this is also the second fallacy, is that we think that because light is the same in our general vicinity, that it's the same in Alpha Centauri, and it's not. I think that's the end of this video. I don't think I can explain very much more. This is so simple that it doesn't require me to do any math formulas or explain anything other than just to tell you that if you jump into a hole and you want to get to the other side of the earth, you won't get there. You will just die in the middle of the earth. Journey to the center of the earth. And that's about it for this video. If you want to hear more about the reality of science, of gravity, and why cosmology and why Neil deGrasse Tyson and a few of these other people are wrong, then subscribe to my channel, follow me, drop me a comment, whatever. Tell me what you think. Because I really want to know. I've held on to this stuff in my head for the last, I don't know, 50 or 60 years or so. And before, I would have had to have written a book and gotten a publisher or maybe gotten into a magazine or something like that. But now I can just make this YouTube video, and now you will understand, and so the world will change just from me having broken through to enough people that will understand the truth of gravity and celestial objects. You guys have a good day, and remember, subscribe and follow.